Hello, everyone. Semi-retired Bob here. I talk about the carnivore diet, all things related to the carnivore diet, and miscellaneous odds and ends. Today, I am pleased to welcome another special guest to the channel. Today, we have Bubba Rob with us. Go ahead and say hello, Bubba Rob, and tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Oh, hello everybody. Yeah, I'm just Bubba Rob, I guess. I live in Victoria, BC. I have a mini excavating company right now, and I started the carnivore this this portion of it. Oh, I'd say about 16 weeks ago, something like that, and started the whole channel. And now my son is back from university in Japan, and he's been helping me out quite a bit, and just trying to put the message out there that, the carnivore diet has been a huge change for me and a positive in my life. But I also work on other aspects of it, like Stoicism and music and different things, and try and incorporate it into myself to actually just become a better person, and hopefully to make sure the whole lifestyle stays intact.
You've gotten started on carnivore. How long have you been doing carnivore? And what kind of changes have you noticed in yourself in the amount of time you've been doing it so far?
This stint, it's been 15 and a half weeks. I did it last year for 6 months, and then I got extremely busy with my work and kind of lost my way. And then I got rather sick with that nasty virus we're not supposed to talk about, and ended up with a really severe sinus infection in that. And I started it again in January, did it for a month and a half, and a lot of things were happening here, and I lost my focus. And then I ended up having a rather severe panic attack, and I was told to sit down. And I was sitting there, and I got a phone call from a friend of mine slash customer, and he knew I was noodling on the guitar and sending YouTube videos to friends, which wasn't really mounting too much. And he kind of gave me the perennial poop and kick in the backside about doing something positive. And Aaron said to me, "You need to get on it and redo your YouTube channel." And then I basically said, "Well, who are you to tell me?" And then he sent me a link, and him and his wife have 3 channels with over 22 million subscribers. So after that, I sent him a text. He came down and talked to me for 3 hours, gave me lots of information. Then I started redoing the guitar videos a bit. And then a week later, he phoned me, and he gave me the a kick in the backside again, and said that I needed to start talking and telling stories because I was a good storyteller. And, because we've had some extremely deep conversations about philosophy and whatnot when I've been working on his properties. And so I started thinking about it. Well, I need to do something here. And I started thinking about, well, I have changed my diet. Well, maybe I just need to do the whole carnivore thing. And I've been watching carnivore channels already, following Dr. Baker. I mean, the first time I saw him was on Super Training Gym. And then I saw him on London Real. And that kind of got the thing going, that I was going to start this. And I just did the whole WTF thing and just plunged right in it. And I really started thinking about what it is I want to say. And because me being the person I am, I want to be extremely authentic and very truthful about what I talk about. And I've been through so many things that if somebody else can pick up on it and move forward, or give them a poke in the backside, then it's all good.
Okay. So, do you mind me asking, not just on this time, but overall, about how much weight have you lost so far?
Um, the first time I did it, I lost 60 pounds. The second time I did it is 30 something. And I did hop on the scale today, which isn't weigh-in day, but as of today, I'm down 35 pounds in 15 and a half weeks.
Great. That's
Yeah.
great. Now, the whole reason I went there with that, because as you know on my channel, I've moved away from focusing on weight and more to body composition and how you feel.
Hmm.
And that's the next question I want to ask you. How do you feel?
Well, I wouldn't say I feel 100%. I'm feeling much, much better. Um, because of my background when I was involved in bodybuilding and powerlifting, I kind of have a tendency to push things. So I'm usually all out or nothing, so to speak. So when I started back walking, um, I was still having quite a bit more pain, quite a bit of pain in my hips and my knees and my feet because all the residual effect from gout. And so what I've done is I've backed off. I'm listening to my body. So I'll walk a day, then maybe take a day or two off, but I'll still make sure that walk is 20 minutes to a half an hour. And that actually seems to be helping quite a bit with pain. As far as the reduction of pain overall, it's actually quite massive. I'd have to say the brain clarity has been tremendous. Uh, but that takes time. It just doesn't happen. Well, it hasn't really happened to me like a rocket. Like it's a steady progression over time. And but what I did notice by going on it, off it, going on it, off it, whenever I went off, when the pain came back, it seemed quite a bit more extreme. And I believe the reason for that is you get used to not feeling that pain every day. So if it does come back, or if I go for a walk and because of the crystallization in my joints, if there's an issue, it can be quite painful. But overall, if I look at it over a 24-hour period each day, my pain's probably down at least 90%.
That is fantastic. I know exactly what you're talking about with the gout and slow and steady, just like many of the people like Coach Bronson will talk about. Make sure you're getting your rest days in as well as the exercise. Right now, at this stage of your journey, the walking is your exercise. And after you get your days of rest in and get your walking in, eventually you'll be able to walk more, farther, and more days. But there's no reason to push it as long as you're getting a little bit of progress. As I say on my channel all the time, be 1% better. And that's all it takes, just a little bit better every day. Um, One of the things I wanted to talk to you about today, because you mention it all the time on your channel about being stoic. Can you tell my audience basically what is Stoicism and how did you get into it?
Oh, basically what it is, it's an ancient Greek Roman philosophy. And how I got into it is because of my PTSD and things that had happened. I started doing research on repairing myself. And I started watching some YouTube channels like Everyday Stoic or Daily Stoic or whatever they are. Ryan Halliday is the guy. And then that kind of got me going. I got into reading stuff by Eckhart Tolle, different things like that. But the whole Stoicism thing is actually the basis of cognitive behavioral therapy, which started in the 50s. So, what it is actually learning to control your thoughts and your actions uh, to actually help with things like depression. Uh, because it's like they say, only 10% of what happens can bother you. The other 90% is where our mind goes with it. So what I knew for me to become a better person and to get rid of these issues or minimalize them, I didn't want to be going like the prescription drug route or anything like that. I tried that. It didn't work well with me. It was just a bad thing. And I knew there was a better way. So as I dig into things, more things like Stoicism and learning to control my thoughts, it actually gives me quite a bit of relief. And it gives me a cause of reflection of maybe how I've behaved or how I've thought of things. I work really hard on not passing judgment. And it's funny when I talk about it to people, like say in person, they they almost think I'm preaching the Bible or something, and it's not it at all. It's really about controlling your thoughts. I mean, it's so important, um, to have everything going right between the ears, other than, really just your diet. I mean, everything works in it's like a cohesive thing, right? It's whatever your relief is, to put your mind in a better place or a meditative place, to be present and not let those things get to you that bother you. And for an example, and I won't mention any names here, but I was talking to somebody the other day about, and this comes up quite a bit when people write me, or they might send me something on Messenger or Instagram about how they're afraid to tell their families that they're doing the carnivore diet, or how they're actually shunned, right? And the reality is, it doesn't matter what they think. The reality is, you don't have to say anything. Why? If you know it's not going to be receptive, and you're not going to get the support from your family because they think you're like an alien and you got antennas sticking out of your head, then you really don't need to go there. So if you can be a little bit more comfortable within yourself and understand that you don't need that, you don't need to put yourself through that, you don't need to open that can of worms to feel rejected, then you're and become stronger, and it's better off. It's like they say, if your family isn't very supportive of you, then you've just picked the wrong support group.
Overall, between the carnivore diet and practicing stoicism and all of that, um, would you say that your mental clarity has gotten better over the last, say, where you're, what'd you say, 15 weeks this time?
Yeah, it's been a huge change. Yeah, the diet for me, and I know when I was being interviewed by Kimberly, we talked a bit about it. Is she felt the diet is kind of the beginning, and there's lots of things for me for a person to work on. I don't think the diet thing has to be the beginning. It can be the middle, it can be the end. But when you actually have the actual synergy where you're working, everything's working in the right direction, you can put those pieces in your life at any time, as long as you get those pieces in place.
Seen you have a couple of playing guitar videos on your channel,
Yeah.
um, and you look like you're fairly skilled at it. How long have you been playing the guitar, and have you ever thought about doing anything with your music, or is it just more of a thing to relax you?
That's more of a thing to relax me. The funny the funny thing about that is, when I was in high school, I played the drums for 4 years, and I was always very shy about it. And then when I was in senior high, my mom bought me a guitar, and I took some guitar lessons, and I went away from it. I kind of go back to it, back, and then I really left it alone. And then when I separated from my ex, Uh, I was looking for something to do with my son, and I was quite depressed and things like that. So I told him, I said, why don't we start taking guitar lessons again? Because my both my kids are extremely musical. So I started back again about I guess maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And what I found is it really puts me in a real meditative state. So what I'll do is I'll practice some scales or maybe some guitar licks, and then I'll just hit, and then I'll have an idea that goes through my head. And I got this thing that's called a ditto pedal. And what it is, it's a looper. So then I'll just run a bass line with my guitar through it. And then I'll just sit there and I'll practice different things on how I want the guitar to sound. It could be the same bass track 20 times in a row, but I just try and make it do different things. And then I just record it with my iPhone, actually. And then if something says things like it's kind of okay or not too bad, then I'll put it out there. I mean, I've had one guy actually write me from Bosnia, invite me to go there, and I got to play with a jam with a local guy here, a guy by the name of Jesse Roper, who's quite famous. And you know, it's good. Maybe one day I'll play live again. I've done that a couple times, but for me, it's just a passion, and I'm a huge blues fan, and I still like my metal and sub pop and old Aerosmith and things like that. But it's good for the soul, and I strongly suggest anybody that's on the carnivore diet that needs something for their mind to go. It doesn't have to be guitar; it could be any instrument, but just learn something new and put your mind in a good direction.
Now, I also know that you are a biker. You like to ride your motorcycle,
Yep,
and you live in Victoria, British Columbia. Now, I have
yep,
seen a lot of the island out there through
mm-hmm,
a couple of different YouTubers that I follow. But I want to get your take on this because you go around the countryside on your bike. I'm assuming you don't just ride it around the city. You go out into the countryside and ride your bike
yep.
through the island. If you had to pick three, what are the top three must see things on Vancouver Island?
The top three things to see as far as a local person. Everybody talks about Tofino. That would be one. Um, Banfield, Tofino, Banfield. I like a little place called Port Renfrew to ride into. It's a really small little spot. They got a couple of really dynamite restaurants there. There's one there that'll, if you take a fishing charter, they'll cook your catch of the day, which is just amazing. And um, I like Cowichan Bay. There's lots of places all around, and we'd ride into like Port Renfrew or up to Port McNeil and Oyster Bay. I mean, you could probably pick any of them. There's lots of little places that you can find.
Fantastic. Yeah, I've been watching videos shot on Vancouver Island for a long time now, and I really want to get up there sometime. If I had known about it the time I went up to Kitimat, British Columbia, gosh, that's been 25, 30 years ago now. If I had known about it then, I would have flown over and done a little exploring on Vancouver Island before I came home. But that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
Um, so you also say you have an excavating business. I've seen the machine that you work on. Is that keeping you pretty busy out there these days with doing excavating work?
Not right now. Our economy and the renovation market is extremely slow. The whole thing with the bank rates and what's happened has been quite devastating. I've actually never seen it this slow. The only thing that's really going right now is large projects that were already in ground, right? I believe, and I know this isn't a political channel, but I believe our prime minister really screwed the pooch, so to speak, with some of the things that they've done. And, the whole COVID thing has really hurt. And, handing out free money like that, like I was never entitled to get it. So I continued to work all the way through it. But what it's done with the pricing of products, the cost of fuel, diesel is pretty bad. And they keep piling up carbon tax on carbon tax, which is really affecting someone like myself uh, to actually, is it worth me going out and turning the machine on or not?
Okay, now let's circle back to carnivore for just a moment. I'm sure everybody's interested because this is one of those questions that everybody gets asked. What is, if someone were to follow Bubba Rob around for a day, what would a standard day of eating look like?
A standard day of eating, I guess for me would be I get up anywhere from 6 to 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'll probably have a half a dozen eggs, omega-3 eggs, large or extra large. I might have like a 200-gram can of oh sardines with it, or beef or chicken, whatever might have been left over from the night before. And then usually around 3 or 4 o'clock, I have to eat. So then, it depends. It might be hamburger, could be chicken again. I try and get as much prime rib, or I guess you guys call it ribeye, in as much as I can, and just go from there. I might have a snack in the middle of the day, but I really try and keep my eating window within around that 8 hour mark.
So you're basically eating breakfast and then a late lunch to get yourself inside of an 8 hour eating window. That's
Yep.
fantastic. And we have now come to the point in the interview where
Hmm.
I just say, Bubba Rob, you're sitting in front of my audience. Most of them have never seen you before. What do you want to say to them? If you could give them one piece of advice about the carnivore diet or anything else, just take 4 or 5 minutes or however long it takes, even if it's not quite that much, and talk about whatever you want to talk about to my audience.
I guess for me, the most important thing is, I guess, a couple of things. First, if you're going to do the carnivore diet, really make sure you put in a sufficient amount of research yourself. I have a tendency to not believe everything I see or I hear. So I will really go quite in depth on it and try and find as much information as I can. So I find that's extremely important. If you're going to be following somebody on YouTube, maybe find somebody that you can emulate, and for a little bit of support, reach out, make some comments, and two, focus on other aspects of your life, uh, so that you kind of got somewhere to go to mentally, because it's not the easiest thing. You don't want to be ruminating over food. You could be reading, music, bikes. It could be going to church. It could be studying Stoicism. But really focus on working on all aspects of your life to succeed. Because even though the carnivore diet will give you the results, but if you can really work on yourself and make sure you become a better person, that's going to give you a much greater chance of succeeding and staying with it.
That is fantastic advice, Bubba Rob. I really appreciate that. Are you just doing YouTube, or do you have some other social media out there? This is where I go ahead and give us all the places we can find you on social media.
Well, I do have Instagram, and I put a link after each video on it. And I do put up Facebook Reels. My son got me into doing those both. It's funny, when you do the Instagram thing, you could do a short for YouTube and it could take off. You put on Instagram, it goes nowhere. You can put something on Instagram and then you put it on YouTube Shorts and it does absolutely nothing. So it's, I find that kind of funny because what I'll do is I'll put one on both I got an alert yesterday and that Dr. Kiltz has started following me on Instagram. And those little animations that my son does on my phone, I think it's kind of taken that part off a little bit. We need to focus a little bit more on it, but there's other things you can do. I guess if you need to try and monetize things, but I think you got to have a little bit of a business mind. We're going to be starting a website soon and different things like that. And I got a gal I'm supposed to meet Saturday on getting t-shirts and hats made and stuff. So I believe if there's anything like that we can do to generate something, I'd like to do it. I don't believe in asking for handouts. I don't believe anything's free in this life. I believe you need to put the effort out to have things come to you. But that's just sort of how we are, and that's what we thought about at the beginning of this. If we if we do the little things and we're open to things opening up and just allowing the energy to soak in, you'll be fine. Like another thing I've got going on is the component chairperson for the province, the union I belonged to years ago when I worked for corrections, has actually been watching my channel. And he's waiting for a certain point to where I get good enough at the public speaking that he wants me to put together a package to help correctional officers in the province in dealing with PTSD. So that's something that's kind of in the background that we'll probably be working on.
Thanks for being here today, Bubba Rob. I certainly appreciate your time. Everybody watching, don't forget to go down in the comments. Thank Bubba Rob for his time. His channel will be listed underneath his picture, so be sure and get over there and subscribe to his YouTube channel and follow him on all the other things. Let's get Bubba Rob some support out there, because if you really listen to this interview, he has some very, very good ideas. That's what I've got for you today, folks. Don't forget, get out there, be 1% better. Today, tomorrow, every day. Have a great day, folks, and I'll see you in the next one.